Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the 50th and best episode of the Hashcast. And as always, I have a guest way cooler and way more interesting than myself. And today I have also someone who is blonder and nerdier than me. Blonde nerd, Brittney Brombacher. How are you?
I'm fantastic. I'm happy we finally made this happen. I feel like we've been talking about this forever, and then I'm always the asshole. Also, can we swear on your show?
Yes, you can.
Good. I'm always the asshole
appropriately.
who's like, oh, I can't do it. I'm sorry. I'm at this thing, or I'm at this other thing. But this time, right before we shoot episode 100 of What's Good Games, I'm able to do it.
Really?
So you're on 50. I'm
50.
on 100.
That is awesome. That is pretty sweet. So, Britt, before I'm going to officially introduce you, I have to do a little thing. Because for those who follow me on Twitter, might have heard this already, but I have accepted a job at Evolve PR.
Hell yeah, you have.
I have, yeah. This is not something that they offered out of nowhere. I obviously applied for that and they gave me the job. But someone, you might have a question, okay, what's this going to mean for the show? Basically nothing. I can still do whatever I want to do. The only thing is I might have to turn down the fire on certain games and stuff, because you never know who's going to be a client, stuff like that. Yeah. And for you guys, I might have a developer on the show that is a client of ours, and then I'm going to obviously have to disclose that. But the style we have here with the interviews, it shouldn't be too much problem. So yeah, I'm very excited. I'm starting tomorrow. By the time this airs, it's been last week, pretty much. But that is enough.
That's so
about
exciting.
me.
I just want to give you some props and kudos and shout outs, because I feel like you've worked in this industry for many years, but and you've wanted to for so long, and you've hustled and hustled and hustled, and now you have this awesome gig, and I think you deserve a round of applause.
Oh, Britt, you're the best.
You deserve it, man. Yeah,
Thanks,
I'm really happy for you.
Well, I have a story about you later on and how your influence has rippled through my entire thing, but we'll save that for later so I can make you cry. But Britt, we've been chatting for a good 3 minutes already, and I have not officially introduced you yet. Now, everybody who's listened to the show probably knows who you are, but there is this one person who might not know that, and it's probably my mom supporting her good old son. So for that one person, Britt, who are you and what is it that you do?
Oh, goodness. Do you want me to take it back? How far do you want me to go here? Or do you want
as far as you're comfortable with.
Okay, so my name is Brittney Brombacher, and I don't talk like this. Sometimes it just happens. And I am one of the co-founders of What's Good Games, which is a weekly video game podcast. And we launched in May of 2017. So we're coming up on our 2-year anniversary next month, which is bonkers to think about. I don't know where the time is going. So I've been doing that for the last 2 years. Before that, I had started my own video game blog in 2011 called blondnerd.com, which is where the blonde nerd nickname comes from. And that was essentially my way of building something to get my foot in the industry. I didn't want to work for anyone. I wanted to work for myself. So I started this website where I would go to conventions, when I could afford to, and I would cover the news and I would cover games. And eventually, that kind of built me up my media credentials, where I got to go to E3 and other things like that, and preview events, and started getting review copies, and that's kind of where my career in gaming started.
Well, it's been quite the ride, because I've known you for a couple years now, but even since then till now, you have grown, your audience has grown, you are doing this whole new thing, and I kind of want to get right into that. Of course, you have your own blog, pretty successful. I have known about you since then. I think the first time you really popped up on my radar was when you did the E3 takeover.
Oh yeah.
That was before I ever been to E3, and I was like, "Wow, that's pretty broad. This is a big deal." And now you're doing What's Good Games. What's Good Games is now it's you, Andrea, Renee, and Steimer.
Christine Steimer.
I almost forget her first name because nobody ever.
She prefers to be called Steimer anyway. So who knows her first name?
Good.
Yeah.
So don't hate me, Steimer. How did that happen? What is the origin story of What's Good Games? Was it a phone call? Was it an email?
It was, oh gosh. So I've known Steimer since 2009. So because my first foray into video games was the IGN community blogs. And that was because I was working 40 hours a week. I hated my job, 3-hour commute every day, and it sucked. And so I'm like, I need to do something that makes me feel like I'm accomplishing something with my life. So I started blogging on the IGN community blogs. At that time, Steimer had come on to IGN as managing Xbox something or another. I think she was in charge of the Xbox section for a bit. This was 10 years ago. I don't fucking remember. And so I met her through that. And we've been friends. We just instantly clicked because we're both weirdos and we want to bang BioWare characters. So it just kind of meshes really well. Yeah. So I've known her for a long time. And Andrea, I got to know her just in I think it was 2016. Mm-hmm. This was the first time I really met her. It was because we were doing a panel together. Actually, we just released a video on this, but it's patrons only right now. And we actually got the tweets where we talked to each other for the first time and that kind of stuff in there. So it's really fun. Anyway, so I've known these girls for a few years, and at that time, Andrea had just stopped working at GameStop TV, and I think she was kind of looking for something video game related that she could, that we could all work on together. And so she said, a podcast would be great. And then who do I know that could work on this? And she knew that I had started my own website and kind of ran my own community for, 6 years at that point. And she knew Steimer obviously knew her shit, and they were friends from a different part of life. So anyway, yeah, it just kind of all meshed together. And then we talked about it at, I want to say PSX 2016 at first. Mm-hmm. And then we reconvened on it, and then we'd finally made it a thing, and it launched in May 2017. We didn't actually get together to actually talk about the show until I think early May. Mm-hmm. We called it WGGCon, and then we launched 2 weeks later.
All right. Yeah.
Anyway, long-winded story, but
no, it's a great story because I'm a sucker for origin stories, and I just remember the teaser, I think, which was you with Alexa Ray was still involved back then, of course, in the kitchen drinking champagne. But that's so cool. But do you ever miss being doing the blonde nerd, or are you still doing it on the side, or is it full on What's Good Games right now?
No. So I mean. No, I prefer doing What's Good because I think What's Good Games has propelled Blonde Nerd. I mean, I say Blonde Nerd, but it's that's not really even a thing anymore. It's just more like Brittney Brombacher of What's Good. Yeah. But What's Good has really propelled my brand into something that I don't know if I could have achieved on my own. And if I did, it would have taken years and years and years because it's hard to do a one-person podcast. I mean, you pull it off successfully, but it's a lot of work, as you know. So it was kind of and I never really had a desire to do a podcast because I had started one in 2009 with a couple other guys, and it was really fun. And that's actually how I got my first media credential into PAX East and E3 was through that podcast called the Noobketeers. Anyway, it was fun, but it was just a lot of work, right? Yeah. And so I kind of found myself, I was at this point with my Blonde Nerd brand where I was kind of in a stalemate anyway, and I didn't quite know how I wanted to evolve. I was doing a lot of YouTube content, which is really fun, but as you know, breaking into YouTube and becoming super successful on YouTube is just not easy, obviously. No. Not easy at all.
Tell me about it, yeah.
Yeah, and it was with the website and the YouTube, and I tried some live streaming. I just didn't really know where I was going. So then when Andrea and Alexa and Steimer, also shout out to Alexa. I didn't mention her in the origin story because she's no longer part of What's Good, but she was amazing and awesome, and she got a job at Nintendo, so that's why she had to leave us, and I'm so sad about it. Yeah. Anyway, when they approached me and they're like, hey, do you want to do this thing? I was like, yeah. I mean, this sounds like that breath of fresh air that I was missing.
Well, it's great because it obviously took off. I've seen you guys grow. I've been to one meetup and I saw the amazing movie that someone made for you guys for the last meetup at PAX East. But before that, you're casually saying, "Oh yeah, I was just building my own brand." Building a brand is not easy, and you still manage to put yourself out there as Blonde Nerd in a time where, like you said, it's fighting for space. A lot of people are trying to do what you did. What is your background that you managed to get that foot in? Because getting noticed is the hardest part, I think, to start building that audience. Where did it come from? Where did that hustle? Where did that creativity for your own brand come from?
I have no freaking idea, man. No, this is the crazy part is I never planned to do any of this kind of stuff. The whole reason I started blogging in 2009 on the IGN community blogs was just because I was looking for something that made me feel like I was accomplishing something that I love to do. Now, a lot of people probably listening, I've been playing games since I was a little girl. I'm 5 years old. So it's always been something I loved, but it was never an industry that I knew a lot about. I just knew what games I liked, what I didn't like, etc. But in 2009, when I was really hitting that wall with my then job, I started blogging about games, and this fire got lit under my ass that came out of literally nowhere.
Yeah.
And I had no idea that I was capable of having such a passion for something like this, if that makes any sense. And so at that point, then I started reading other people's blogs on IGN, and they're talking about these things called, game engines and developer-publisher relationships and hardware. And I was, beyond just like what a PlayStation 3 is, right, at that point. And I was fascinated by all of it, so I would hop on Wikipedia, I would go on all the websites, and I would make little flashcards, and I would educate myself on the industry, and then I just found that this was subject material. Like, I literally made flashcards, I'm not making that up. I found that this was an industry that I was just super passionate about, and for me, when I first started, and I was like, okay, this is cool. I love doing this. I wonder if I can get anywhere with this. My first goal was, the thing I was striving for is I want to get into E3. That was like it. I thought, if I can get into E3 on my own, I've made it. I'm done. There's nothing more I can accomplish. Now, granted, that was, 9 years ago. 8 years ago, and so obviously, like, the wall didn't end there. The wall just like keeps going, but I don't know where this all came from. I think it was just I found something that I was super passionate about, and I think when you find something that you love doing, it doesn't feel like work.
No,
right?
That's true. Yeah, but were you always a writer? Did you write stuff in school? Did you write as a kid? Were you a storyteller?
Yeah. It's funny you say that, because I've always loved writing stories, and I once wrote a fanfic about Dragon Ball Z that's in Final Fantasy IX that's like 400 pages long. That it's very embarrassing. Anyway,
we need it.
I know, and I've been promising our community, but I'm just having a really hard time finding it. And I'm so sad about it. But I used to always love writing stories when I was a kid. But it's funny, look, because my mom was one of those. She is one of those moms who keeps everything, all of my school projects. Yeah. So like sometimes I'll get a wild hair at my ass, and I'll go through some of my old projects just for giggles, and I wrote so many things about video games. I remember I had to create a project in first or second grade. We had to create this world, and I created Video Game Land, and the part of the entertainment would be Twisted Metal tournaments, and part of the transportation would be Mario Underground tunnels, and so it's always been a really important part of my life, but it was never anything I thought I would make a career out of.
No.
Yeah.
Well, did you ever, like, this is what I used to do all the time when I had like an English assignment and you had to write a story. I would try to take like storylines from the games I've been playing, because my teacher would have no idea. Have you ever
that's so funny.
done that?
No, it's like, what would you, like, can you give me an example of
well,
one
like
that you used?
I would be playing like Final Fantasy 2, I think, or it's called 4, I guess, in the US. And then I would like take one of the Paladin storylines, with Kane, and I would just like try to mimic that a little bit, and then I was like, I can write this.
That's amazing.
That's how I got my grades when I was.
That's how I got good grades. Copied. What was it, SquareSoft at the time? Or
that's
something?
right. That's right. My teacher didn't know. They couldn't like Google it, right? They couldn't just take a line.
Oh, that's right. We lived in a different era in those days.
I know. I just dated myself pretty bad. I just bring it up because there was a story on I think one of the sites that a kid tried to pass off Destiny 2 lore as his English assignment. And his teacher just Googled it and found the whole archive there.
His teacher was probably thinking, this is really actually interesting. This is good stuff. This can't be real. Like, no, this kid could not have made
good,
that.
Yeah. Deep lore. But what I like about sort of like that, like you have this creativity, you write, but then you also have, what I understand from you, parents and even grandparents that like really feed into that passion of yours. Because I love that story that you play with your dad and with your grandma as well.
Yeah.
Like my grandmother passed away when I was like 8, and she would have not even known what a Nintendo was. Grandfather, same, shortly after. But how did that relationship build around games? Was she always a gamer, or was it like something that were like, grandma, try this, and she just happened to like it?
Oh no, she got me into games. She was the one who got me into it. So the origin story, as I understand it, is that she was at the mall, and there was a KB toy store. And I don't think those exist anymore, at least where I live. And in there was Donkey... No. It was an NES game. I think is there a game called Bugs Bunny Castle or something like that?
Probably. Yeah.
I think that's what it is. I'm going to Google machine right now to find it.
You should.
Oh, yeah. Bugs Bunny Crazy Castle. That's what it was.
There you go.
And that was at KB Toys, and she saw some kids play it, and she was like, "Oh, that's interesting," but they were stuck on a puzzle. And so this is how my aunt tells the story. My aunt turned around, was buying something or another. She turns around, and my grandma's playing the game, and the kids are all watching her play.
Yeah.
And it was one of those little kiosks that they had in the store. And so ever since then, she was just completely addicted to games, and she loves them. And so then my aunt got into video games, and then my other aunt got into video games, and then they got their kids into video games. And then it was my because that's my grandma on my dad's side. The grandma on my mom's side is the one who got me my Super Nintendo for Christmas, and I remember getting that bad boy, that fateful Christmas. That was such a good day. Yeah. And so anyway, so growing up, I would always go over to my grandma's house and watch her. She'd be playing A Link to the Past. She'd be playing, Bubsy or Widget. That was the other game she always plays. Widget. She did play Bubsy. She played Widget. She played Final Fantasy. She was playing Breath of Fire. She was playing all of these games, and I just remember watching her play. And then while my other grandma had got me a Super Nintendo, she didn't play games, but my other grandma then knew I had a Super Nintendo. And my aunt knew I had a Super Nintendo, and so my aunt got me into games like Earthbound. I'm actually wearing my Earthbound shirt right now. But,
there you go.
And games that ultimately shaped the way I would play games for the rest of my life. So yeah, they definitely, actually I was just over there a couple days ago, and she had me update her PS4 for her. She's currently playing Dragon Quest 11. She's hooked on her PlayStation 2. That's her favorite console of all times. All the JRPGs, she has Dark Cloud is one of her favorite. Dark Cloud 2, all of those games. She loves them so much. And so that's always been a part of my life. And so it's always fun to go over there and like chit chat about, the latest and greatest in gaming. And my dad, when I was at home, he would be my gaming buddy. We played all the games together: Super Mario World, Bomberman, Zombies Ate My Neighbors.
I love the game Zombies Ate My Neighbors.
Right? Isn't it so good? Yeah,
so good.
We'd even play games like Pink Panther together. It's just silly games, but it was just he and I sitting down playing. Obviously, then like PlayStation came around, then we got hooked on Twisted Metal together, and then it just goes on and on and on. And so everyone's always just kind of been, you love what you love, like let's participate in it together, and so now my dad, he's hooked on his Switch, on his 3DS. He still loves all the classic games, and I was actually just over there today, and we were getting caught up on Dragon Ball Super, which is freaking fantastic. Do you watch Dragon Ball Z at all, Dragon Ball Super or anything like that?
I haven't watched Super, but I've watched pretty much all of Dragon Ball Z, or as in Europe we call it Dragon Ball Z, of course.
Of course, because you're fancy. You have to watch Dragon Ball Super. It's so damn good.
Yeah, I think I've seen one or two episodes or pieces of episodes on YouTube. It does look super cool. It's
amazing.
I'll tell you a story because I'm not sure if you've seen this. Today I started to try to learn to love anime. Because I was like, everybody's always this is blind spot. I watched them when I was a kid. So I go on Netflix and okay, which anime do they have? And the first one that pops out is the 7 Deadly Sins. So I watch for 5 minutes and it's garbage. It's like super gross.
I've never heard of that one.
No, it's terrible. It's like super gross, and I was like, okay, no, I can't do this.
So funny.
But then I started watching One Punch Man, and it's actually quite fun.
I've heard that's really good. Yeah. I'm a casual anime watcher myself. I've watched things like Fairy Tail, Inuyasha, obviously if you want to count Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball GT, Super, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I'm also one who really wants to get into anime. I have a treadmill in my in one of the bedrooms in the house, and then I have a TV in front of it. Yeah. And so my goal is to find an anime that just sucks me in, where I can just walk in a run and just watch anime the whole time.
Yeah. No, I love Dragon Ball because I'm a martial arts guy, right? So it's just that extra level
so good.
Of pushing. But I'm completely going off track because I had a super deep question for you. So you play games with your family. That is such a potentially strong bonding thing, right? Because the one memory I always bring up is my family playing Adventures of Lolo together, where the whole family was trying to solve the puzzles. And that's my equivalent of going fishing with your dad, because we don't do that in Holland much. So do you think that it must have shaped you in some way that you have actually pushed this? But what is your favorite memory when you were a kid playing with your grandma or with your dad?
Ooh, okay. So I think with my grandma, it was always just during summer vacation, whenever I would go over there to be watched while my parents would work. I think it was just coming over to her house, and she'd have her dark coffee, or black coffee, I think is what it's called. I don't drink coffee at all. It was just pure black coffee, and just the aroma of that with her little breakfast item, and then she'd be playing probably Dark Cloud 2 or Xenogears or some JRPG or RPG of sorts. So I think just coming over there and sitting down and just watching her play and talking with her about the game and watching her progress through the story was always just super fun for me. And whenever I think about it, and like back then my grandpa was still alive, and so he never understood gaming. He never really understood his wife who played games. He's like, what are you doing? I don't get it, but hey, if it makes you happy, like go on with your bad self, right? And so that was always fun. Always watch him just kind of like walk by and like look and shake his head and like laugh and walk away. Because she's talking all this lingo that he doesn't understand. So I think those summers when I was maybe 10, 11-ish going over there. And I mean, I always say like that's my top memory with my grandma, just those summer mornings. And then with my dad, this one time I woke up, I looked outside, it was a school day, and we had gotten a buttload of snow. And so I checked the radio, because that's what we did back in the day, is we checked the radio. And I know. And our school had been canceled for the day. And so my dad said, okay, well, I'll take the day off and we'll just hang out together and whatever. So my mom went to work that day. He and I hung out all day. We got maybe just like a foot of snow, which was a lot, for like where I'm from. And so everything shut down. And then we lost power because some trees had fallen and they live in a really wooded area. And what do we do? I was like, Dad, I want to play games. And he said, okay, so this is what he did. He went out, he got the generator, he knocked out the kitchen window so he could run the generator from outside of the house through the kitchen window and plug it in so we could play Super Mario World. So we didn't have any electricity. We didn't have, anything else going for us, but he specifically started up the generator so we could play Super Mario World, and I'll never forget that. That was really fun.
So cool. That is so cool. I love that. That is such a great story. It's power of video games, right? That will shape you for a while, and those are memories that will last a lifetime. So now you are this enormous person in the video game industry. Like everybody knows you. Well, a lot of people know you. Like, I was watching the Final Fantasy 15 presentation. I think Greg Miller hosted it, and like he called you out on the spot because there was a mobile game, and he's like on stage was like, "Don't download it right now, Brombacher," or something like that.
Rocker. Yeah, Greg's great.
Do they like when they see you like this? Like, how is that for them, seeing their granddaughter or their daughter like doing what she has always loved? Is that a special thing you talk about over Christmas, or?
Yeah. I mean, I think for them, it's always hard for them to parents and grandparents to fully understand what I do. In fact, just the other day, my dad's brother was in town, and my dad was trying to explain what it is I do. And he's like, so you have like a radio show or something?
That's how I call it.
Yeah, it's the adorable thing. It doesn't matter how many times you explain it. No. It's just not going to click. And so, I mean, I remember quitting my job back in the day because that's probably a story for another time, but I ended up quitting my then job with a terrible commute and because I just didn't like it. So I pulled out all of my retirement and pulled out all of my savings, and I'm like, I'm going to live off of this. I'm going to try to find a part-time thing in the meantime, which I was able to support myself and try to make this video game thing work. Yeah. Thankfully, it all worked out, but I remember coming home and telling my parents, like, hey, I'm going to quit because I had a good, secure job at the time, but I was just so unhappy. I said, hey, I'm going to quit this job, and I'm going to do this part-time thing, and I'm going to try to pursue this video game thing. And they said, you're an adult. You can do what you want. Let us know if we need to help you with anything. So they were really supportive. But now, now that I don't just have a website. We just announced, What's Good Games just announced that we're now in GameStop TVs. Yeah. So that's something I can physically show them and be like, hey, those stores that I've been going to almost my whole life, they weren't called GameStop back then. But now, there's TVs in there, and you can go in there and you can see me and my, and my crew. And so they understand that. They're like, oh, that's so cool. Or that meetup video, I'll show them that. And this is what we do at our conventions. And, oh, that's so cool. No, I think they think it's really neat that I was able to do something that I love, and they've always been really supportive with that kind of thing. So
I think it's amazing. Like it takes so much. Like it's a baller move to just say, okay, I'm going to quit my job, take my savings, and I'm going to make this work. And it paid off. Like of course we're talking here with someone who made it work, because the people who tried it and do not make it work do not get to be on the show because you lose track of them, right? It's too bad. What did you have a backup plan? No.
So it was. I mean, now. Okay, so I did that when I was 23. 23 and I'm almost 30. So now that I have 7 years like of more experience, I look back on that and I clench a little bit. I'm like, oh God, that was so scary. What did I do? But thankfully I took the risk.
Yeah.
No, so what had happened right around that time is I was dating my now husband, and he had an online marketing agency. And he, I had talked to him for a while, and by talking, I mean I've had bitched to him a while, but for a while, like how unhappy I was at my current job. And he said, one day something happened at work, and it was just like the straw that broke the camel's back. And I was like, I'm done. Blah. And he said, if you're really serious about this, I need help running social media for my company. And he had kind of floated that idea by me before, but I was like, that's stupid. But in that moment, it sounded particularly interesting. Yeah. And so I gave my 2 weeks, and I went to do social media for my now husband's company. And for a while I did that, and that was enough to pay my rent, to pay all my bills. I was living comfortably, and it all worked out, but holy crap, that could have went so bad, because I didn't have a backup plan. What if he and I had split up, because we'd only been dating for maybe like a year at that point, if that. But again, like, I always tell people this, because while I understand that my story is exciting and inspiring, it's also very risky, and it could have gone very wrong in many, many, many different ways. And so I guess what I try to tell people, take responsible risks. If you are serious about wanting to get in the video game industry, but you're currently working something that's not in the industry, you have to do both. I started blogging in 2009. I started my website in 2011. I don't think and all the while working the 40 hours a week and doing the 3-hour commute, I would come home from my job and I would write, or I would blog, or I would do a podcast. You have to support your hobby while your hobby is not making you money, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it makes all the sense. It's my path exactly, except I didn't have the balls to just quit. Also, on the record, on the show, I love your husband. He's one of my favorite people.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
he's fun.
He's the best. I always, when he shows up, when we go to conference, like, oh, he's here, yeah. I'm gonna go.
I know. I missed you at PAX East, man. We both did.
I know. Hopefully next time.
Well, we'll be seeing more of you now.
Yeah. I hope so. Yeah, man. I'd love to fly on someone else's time, but then I'll be working. But only
we're all
till a certain
working.
Time. We're all working all the time.
But it's fun.
Yeah. But so. You do all this, you get that first taste of success. How weird is that? Because that is not something you train for, right? You all of a sudden to have, like, I've seen you grow from like 18,000 to like, what, 47,000 followers or whatever now. How do you deal with that? Especially, I think it might be a different experience for you than for me. Not that I'm at your level, but for a woman online, like how do you manage? How do you deal with that going in untrained?
It's interesting, because I know this isn't, the right or the answer someone might be looking for, but the answer is, I don't know, man. Like, it just kind of comes down to, I love what I do, and I think that has honestly and truly fueled me throughout these past 10 years I've been doing stuff in the industry, right? The reason I would blog for hours and hours on end, the reason I would turn down social events that weren't, that were outside of gaming, the reason I, moved closer to my jobs just so I could spend that time not commuting. I could spend it writing about video games. So I think it's just something about this industry that just makes me, it like puts on like my video game, like social media / personality / influencer armor or whatever. I'm like, let's fucking tackle this. Let's do it. And I love every second of it. It definitely, like, so when I'm at meetups and stuff and I get to talk with people, that's incredible. And it's no work at all. It's just I get to talk with people who like what I do, and we all share a common interest, which is video games. So it's really easy, and all just comes really naturally to me because I'm just happy and I love what I do, right? Yeah. The weird part for me is when you have a meetup and you see just this crowd of people, or if you have a panel and you're getting to your panel and then there's a line of people that want to see your panel. I don't know if I'll ever get used to that. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because maybe within the industry, I have some, I don't know what the word is. People might know of my work, right? But I don't think of myself as anything other than just a dork who loves video games, right? And so when those moments happen, when you see those people who are excited to meet you and listen to you speak and talk, it's really surreal and humbling. And I definitely do take a minute and pause and just appreciate all the success I do have, because and I'm not trying to sound like cliche or give like a
No.
PR speak here, but it's true. You know, I don't know if I'll ever get used to that.
No. Oh, it's
And
good.
so I feel like I should be thanking, you know, people, thank you for the content you make. No, thank you for consuming it.
Yeah.
Like, without you, I wouldn't have any of these opportunities, you know?
It's true. It's true. Like, I think you handled it pretty well. And that kind of brings me to a thing I wanted to share with you, because I want to talk about role models later on who influenced your career. But I remember meeting you for the first time, and it is a very important moment for me in my career, because I think it was the Bethesda press conference. I had been standing in line almost all day because I didn't have entrance to the press conference, but I could go into the party. So I go into the party. I don't know anyone other than the two people I was there who were my writing partners at Loot Crate. And I got to meet you, and like Pancake Powell was there, and a couple of people with John Sylvester. And it's a mess. Like, if you've never been to these press conferences, like, everybody's there. It's the first night, usually, the Bethesda press conference. So everybody's busy seeing their friends that they haven't seen. And there is Brittney Brombacher, who I've seen on my YouTube channels, and I was like, oh, that's Brittney. And I think we might have been slightly familiar with each other over Twitter.
Yeah.
But what you did,
point, you just had the you had the cat avatar.
I had the
on
cat.
Twitter.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But then what you did for me, Britt, was we sat down and you asked questions, and you listened to what I wanted to do, what I wanted to achieve in this, and you just offered this advice, this patronage almost over, like, okay, this is these are the people that you should talk to. And there was such a warm welcome for me in an industry where I knew nobody. And it's tough. Like, everybody gets a shot maybe to go to E3 and gets to try it because they run a website for a bit. But in order to be successful, you need these people that kind of take care of you in the beginning. And you were absolutely one of those people for me. And every time I met you in that week, you were always there, like, hey, you remembered me, and like, how are you doing? Are you holding up? Can you find everything? And you don't need to do that, right? Because there's 100 people that are seeing Brittney Brombacher for the first time, but for some reason, you just put that effort into making me feel welcome and making sure I succeeded on that first week, because it's nerve-wracking. Like, it's super overwhelming to go to your first E3, and that just makes you such a fantastic person. Like, I said it in your list, like, extremely nice person. Like, I mean it from the bottom of my heart. Like, you are such a good person, and people like me are so lucky to have people like you around when they're trying to make a world for themselves. Hey, I have to get this off my chest because I've been wondering.
No, it's very sweet.
But it's and now I'm having a job tomorrow in the industry, just because I was encouraged to be a part of it, and that's just fantastic. So you are definitely one of my role models. So now the follow-up question is, who were your role models, and who took care of you when you got started?
Okay, before I talk about that, just thank you. That was incredibly sweet and kind, and my makeup may or may not be running slightly, but it's fine. No, but that makes me feel really happy, because I've been there, right? I've been there. I don't know anyone. I didn't get into the industry, because I was a part. I've never held a job within the industry, is what I'm trying to say. So I didn't have, those connections, those coworkers, those people to help guide me. And I had some really nice, kind, amazing people that did help me when I first started, and I get it, and I know how much those people helped me. So that, it makes me feel happy that I was able to pay it forward. So
good. You absolutely
thank
did.
you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think role model. I think the first woman that I saw that was kicking ass in the industry, and I was like, that's a job, you can do that, was Jessica Chobot, because back then she was working at IGN, doing the Fix, or yeah, that's what it's called, right? The Fix. And she was really regular in her blog content, and I loved her writing style. I loved that she was just herself. She didn't censor anything. She talked about like farting and pooping and burping and drinking, and I'm like, I was like, hell yeah, whenever I wanted inspiration to write a blog, or if I just if I was so caught up in my job sucks, this is awful, I would read one of her posts, and it just immediately pepped me up a little bit. And then I found that I was able to write in the tone and the voice that I wanted to. Yeah. So I would say she was really instrumental in helping me learn that this is a thing that people can do. There are video game events that you can go to. What is this life? Because back then I didn't really know much. I would say other people that were really helpful in getting me into the industry was Greg Miller, for sure. because, you know, back then, like on IGN, it was such a small community in terms of people who actually, you know, blogged on the website, and the editors at that time would be really interactive with the people blogging. You know, we would go to meetups at PAX East. I remember my first PAX East 2010. There was a IGN meetup there. You know, we went to the Game Scoop panel. We all hung out with Greg and Damon and Scott Bromley at the time. And it was just, holy crap. Like, you know, they were always like, yeah, let's hang out. Let's do stuff. And so our little group of IGN bloggers would go and hang out with these big IGN editors, you know, and that was really cool. Obviously, Christine Steimer, when I first met her, I was like, oh my God, she's like a bigwig at IGN. Oh, this is kind of nerve-wracking. But then she was just like chill, and we talked, and now she's one of my dearest friends. You know, so it was just people like that really helped, you know, made me feel like this industry wasn't all big, bad, and scary. That, you know, there are nice people within here that will help you, that will help answer your questions. I would say, there's a lot of good people in this industry. Wow.
There are so many good people. The second week in a row that someone mentions Jessica Chobot, I should get her on the show, because she's apparently this huge... I know of her because she is in Mass Effect 3, I think.
That's how you know? Yeah. She's in there. But so she, you know, definitely like the face of IGN for many years, right when I was getting started. And I think I've never actually... I think I met her maybe once. IRL, like in passing at a party. But yeah, I really respect and admire everything she's done. Yeah.
Did you get to tell her that she was such an influence on what you've done?
I believe I did.
Yeah.
Actually, yes, I did. I think I was drunk though, so I can't be sure of what I exactly said. I think it was at one of Michael Pachter's parties. Oh, actually, Adam Sessler too. This is a really cool moment. So the whole reason, if I can backtrack a little bit, the whole reason
absolutely.
I started my first IGN blog, which was called Just a Gaming Chick Venting, which is so awful and oh god, so terrible. It's online. It's online, but I don't recommend you go try to find it. Anyway, I got home from work. This is after my 3-hour commute. You know, I was getting up at 4:30 in the morning, getting home at like 7:30 at night. Like, it was just, I was young and stupid. And I got home. I'm sitting on my couch. It's June 2009 and E3 is going on, and I turn on the TV and there's Adam Sessler and Morgan Webb chatting on G4 about the latest and greatest in E3, because I'd always followed E3. I always loved E3 for the announcements and whatnot. And I remember watching them talk, and I was like, I'm gonna do this, because by that point I had been lurking on the IGN blogs for a while, so I was kind of familiar with some of the posters and whatnot. So I just wrote up my first blog post and I published it. And then, you know, getting the feedback of people actually reading it and give me positive feedback was, I think that's where my fire sparked. It's like, oh, wow, this is cool. There's a community of this. Anyway, so fast forward to last year. Oh, God, what convention was it? Could have been the Game Awards. I think it was the Game Awards. Adam Sessler was, you know, at dinner with all of us, and I got to turn to him and I got to tell him, I was a little tipsy, but I wasn't drunk, so I remember this. I got to tell him, you know, hey, I just want to say thank you. Because of you, I remember that fateful evening turning on my TV, and there you were, and I shut my TV off and I opened up my laptop and I started writing, and that was at that point 9 years ago. And so thank you. And then of course he was like, oh, you're making me feel embarrassed, haha, like really sweet and humble about it. And then I just saw him again at GDC, and he complimented the work we're doing at What's Good Games. He's like, you guys are doing great stuff. And I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. You know, it's just kind of that full circle thing.
Yeah,
you know,
that is pretty cool. I think everybody has an Adam Sessler moment. I remember this was also my first E3, and I was hanging out at the Duncan's party.
Oh yeah.
And he was there, and I was chilling with Jake Baldino, and Jake is of course like this.
He's amazing
huge character with this what is it, like 4 million followers or
just
subscribers?
A little small amount.
Just a small amount. So we were hanging out, and Adam was clearly talking to Jake because I was nobody. But like such a wise person, how to deal with the industry, and he just told him, like, you know, the first thing you need to do is go see a psychologist, because you're going to be successful as you can be, and then there's one asshole that's going to say something mean, and it's going to stick with you, and you're going to have to learn how to deal with it. And Jake was like, oh yeah, that's pretty good advice. Love Jake Baldino, by the way, too.
He's great.
What a great dude. But no, Adam is great.
Isn't that the truth though, man? Yeah. Just one comment is all it's...
Yeah.
It's interesting, right? Because I've been doing this for, I mean, you understand, we've been doing it for a while, and just putting out, anytime you put yourself out there in any capacity, whether it's a video or an audio podcast, it feels like you're sharing an intimate part with yourself with the sea of potential judgment and remarks, snarky remarks and whatnot. And I'm happy that I'm at a point where if I get a stupid comment like, I don't know, like, oh, get in the kitchen, or stupid blood, blah, blah. Like, that stuff doesn't bother me. I'm just like, it literally, like, it's
Solo
just water
effort.
off my back.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I was like, come on, at least get clever with your insults. But no. So I'll just, like, mute them or banhammer them. But sometimes there's just that one comment where it just hits you that one particular way. Mm-hmm. And, it sticks with you. But, you know, that's when you have to remind yourself of all the good comments you get. Yeah. And so that's always something I tell people is, it's just a part of it, but you're not the only one going through this if this happens. It's advice I give to people who are trying to get in the industry. It's like, we've all been there.
And I saw Alana Pierce, she had a whole post on Twitter this week, how important it is, and not like, oh, go tell us nice stuff, but to reach out to the content creators that you enjoy, because it takes away a lot of the negative comments, right? If you get that, one thing, like, oh, I really like that show, that goes a long way. I'm at the point where I'll take any comment because I'm just trying to drive engagement still.
No.
So come shit on the show. At least it made you watch, right? But it's great how far you've come. But like, I know, like you said, you're not even 30 yet, so you still got years and years to go. What are
I'm
what's the
30,
5-year
sir.
plan? Oh,
I'm about to be 31 next month. But thank you. I lived briefly in a moment in my 20s.
It's because you just said that I'm almost 30, so I think you just like put yourself back a year.
Oh shit! Did I say I'm almost 30?
Yeah, I know.
Oh,
or maybe
boy.
it was a story in the past. It doesn't matter.
I don't know, but hey, like if I've lost my mind.
Yeah.
Oh, you're so sweet. No, that's hilarious. If I actually did say that. Anyway, 5-year plan. Shit, like again. Who knows? I don't know. It's one of those things where it's, again, I tell people this, you know, if you do what you love, it doesn't feel like work. I mean, it's going to feel like work at some point, but not in your typical like 9-to-5 grindy cog in a machine kind of way, right? You know, you only have yourself to hold accountable, and you have to push yourself, and sometimes you're going to have to make yourself feel uncomfortable and push yourself to do things that you might not be familiar doing, and that's going to make you feel uncomfortable, but you have to do it, right? And that's kind of always been my motto with what I've been doing, and because I love it, I just do it. And so if you would have asked me, like I said, when I first started my blog on IGN, what's your goal, or my website, I want to get into E3. That was it, right? And then after I got into E3, and then I was like, well, now what do I do? Like, now what do I do? I don't know what I want. And so I just keep doing what I love, and then doors just kind of open, or what's the word? Opportunities just kind of pop up. And I mean, granted, you know, there's failure in there also, but past the failure, there are some really cool opportunities. You know, I'm in GameStop TV now, which is just,
that is so cool.
It's cool, right? But it's weird and it's surreal to me. But it's like, if someone had ever asked me, do you ever want to get into GameStop TV? I would have been like, sure, maybe, but I have no idea how to do that, so I'm not going to make that a goal. So I guess the point I'm saying is I don't really know. I'm assuming on behalf of like what's good, obviously we're just going to continue to strive to, you know, grow our audience and put out good content, and hopefully more content. It's just, you know, tricky when we're all in different cities, you know, on the West Coast. But we're definitely talking about trying to incorporate more, trying to do more. It's just what makes sense with what we have going on. I mean, Andrea's obviously super busy. She has kind of funny stuff she's also doing. She's doing hosting. She's kicking ass. Steimer has her full-time job at another location. And then I'm doing like What's Good and some other side stuff too. So yeah, I think, you know, in 5 years, if I'm still happy and I'm still covering games and I'm happy doing it, I know I'll be content, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah, no, of course. Like, it doesn't always have to be like, oh, I'm going to be the president of gaming, you know. But
no, totally. But that's the thing, is I've never really had a game plan. I wanted to get into E3 one year, and then cool. And then I just, I don't know. It happens.
if you would go the other way around, like if you would look like 15 years back, because you've already been in here for 9 years, so like the young Brittney, how mind blown would she be if she could see you today?
I don't know if young Brittney would understand, because...
No. What is the internet? Yeah.
What is the internet? What's that? What's a YouTube? No, but I don't, like, I think if I could go back and say, like, you know, and I don't want to sound self-centered or whatever the word is right now, but if I could go back and say, hey, you know, you're 30 now. I am 30. I'm almost 31. I'm not almost 30. But by the time you're this age, you know, you're going to help pave roads for women like you and little girls like you who want to try to break into the industry and let them know that they're not alone in this. And I'm not trying to make it seem like the world in the gaming industry is this big, bad, awful place. You know, that's not the case. But it can be a little daunting when you're new. And if, you know, you're a woman and you can get some really snarky remarks and you can feel like there's not a lot of people out there like you that share your hobbies, and these are messages we get quite a bit at What's Good. But if I could go back and say like, hey, you're gonna help pave the way so they won't feel isolated, you know, so you know, you're gonna make it easier and more what's the word I'm looking for? Normalized, maybe? That's the word. You know, so if you are, you know, you can walk down a video game convention hall without being asked, like, do you actually play games? Or are you aware of what a video game is? You know, that kind of thing. I love this industry so much. It's so crazy and awesome. But no, because I never wanted to be in the industry. That was never really a goal of mine when I was a little kid. I always thought I'd be like a meteorologist or some shit. But, yeah, no, I definitely still, I even bought like PC software to try to learn that stuff.
You're like the geek girl from Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. Have you seen that movie?
Nope. That's something else about me is I don't know a lot of shit about movies.
I forgot it. Well, maybe the listeners will understand that reference.
They probably will. Steimer and Andrew always drop in movie references, and they just go right over my head.
That's it. Well, you've been busy playing. But you kind of like blazed over the word blazing there, because like you are trailblazing for a lot of young women and even younger girls that are looking at the possibilities that you help create now. Does it ever weigh on your shoulders? Because like you are definitely one of the team of women that are doing that right now. Like, is that even conscious, or are you just like kicking ass and like behind you there happens to be a path blazed?
That's an interesting question, and it's something I haven't really had like a real heart-to-heart with myself about, and I haven't really thought about it. I think the more... You know, I got these messages a little bit when I was doing Blonde Nerd stuff about, I think it's so cool that you're, you know, a woman, you're doing this, blah, blah, blah. But now that there's 3 of us doing this podcast, you know, that's been met with success, I think we're getting a lot more of them. And I think the impact of what we're doing is really starting to hit me. I mean, it's always I've always understood it, but the more messages you get, you're like, oh yeah. And it never gives me any additional pressure. If anything, I just feel like I have an army of badass people behind me. And it's not just women who write in, you know, we get fathers, we get husbands, we get all brothers who are like, hey, thank you so much. You know, it was always hard to get so-and-so to listen to something about games, but now, you know, she relates because of XYZ, and thank you so much. And, you know, there's couples in our community who met because of What's Good. And it's like that kind of stuff that's like, yeah, like this is awesome, you know, so yeah, I feel like more than pressure, I feel, you know, like we have an army of supporters behind us supporting what we're doing. And if we fall or falter, you know, they're going to be there to help pick us up and keep pushing forward. Because, I think the work we're doing is important, you know? Yeah.
No, I think, like, I mean it. I think it's legit great. Like, I have a little girl. I feel slightly better about the community she's going to grow up in than how people like you had to, like, really fight for it and, like, really deal with the shit. I hope that by the time I allow her online, like, in 45 years, that it's a little better, right?
45 years.
Yeah,
oh no.
give or take. No,
I hope so too, man. I hope so too.
We'll see. So, like, we've talked a lot about like your career and everything you're doing. I want to talk about 2 things. Well, maybe multiple things, but like your true passions and what I know, because that's the slice that we see in your online phase: Zelda and Resident Evil.
Oh yes.
Like, how? Let's start with Zelda, because I think that franchise goes a little bit further back. Like, what was it about Zelda that grabbed you, like that made it your game?
Well, I mean, Link was a very hot character in Ocarina of Time, you see.
Listen, like, he was not. Like, maybe in the pictures, but, like, in-game, there was nothing there, right? So.
No, I totally had a crush on him. I was... Okay, he's 11 or 10 in that game. I think he's 11 because he pulls his sword out. He's asleep for 7 years. Yeah, so he was 11, and I was, like, 8 or 9 when that game came out, and I had a huge crush on Nick Carter. Yeah. And he had the Nick Carter blonde hair, and I was gone. But okay, real talk. Like, that's kind of a silly story. But I grew up playing Zelda: Link to the Past because my grandma played that game around me all the time when I was at her house. And so I remember her kind of going through the dungeons and, you know, showing me her map. I thought the map was so cool and, you know, hitting the cuckoos and the bushes and all that stuff. So I was like, whoa. And I think Zelda games just inspire this sense of wonder and awe. And there's something about that formula, that traditional formula, which is, I don't want to go down this tirade, but like I liked Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
Oh boy. I like Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
It's just not my favorite Zelda game because while I appreciate that they did try some new things with the game, it didn't feel like a traditional Zelda game in a lot of senses. You have the weapons, you have the shrines. I miss the big dungeons. The Korok seeds are like
You only have the weapons for a little bit though.
Yeah, and even when
I'm not a big
the
fan,
Masters.
so go.
Okay,
go nuts,
cool.
yeah.
I'm in good company here. Yeah, I still haven't finished it. I mean, I know what happens in the end, but I love the open world. I love the vastness of it. I think it's cool that there are little puzzles hidden throughout. I'm not hating on that part, but I just miss some of the more traditional Zelda elements. And so that old formula, I mean, A Link to the Past, obviously, and A Link Between Worlds are kind of like, little genres of their own. But I think of Ocarina of Time, even Majora's Mask in a sense. You have Twilight Princess, Skyward Sword, probably my least favorite game, Wind Waker, right there with Ocarina of Time and Ocarina of Time and Twilight Princess, Majora's Mask. Like, those are the Zelda games that I'm like, like this is my bread and butter right here. Yeah. And something about them, just having this big open field of Hyrule and knowing that looking around you and seeing Death Mountain off in the distance or seeing the ranch or seeing, the villages, and knowing that you can eventually you're going to have to go there and talk to people and solve the puzzles and get better equipment and find heart pieces and skulltulas or collectibles or bugs or something like that. Farm for rupees, like something about that formula. And I think it could also be, not only is it a great formula and they're fantastic games, but the fact that I grew up on them and that it's really nostalgic to me. Yeah. And so, I just love Zelda so much.
Yeah, one of my earliest gaming memories is Zelda as well, because the whole family except for my mom and my sister played Zelda, the original one, the first one, because you had to fill in the map yourself, right? Because it was good, and we put the secrets. And I'm the youngest of four, and my older brothers are like assholes. So what they told me was that there was a thing we couldn't beat, and they said, oh yeah, we found the 10th level, and there was only 9, right? But you can only get there when you get the frog suit, and that you can buy it in this location with 256 rupees, but the max is 255. So I spent my whole fucking Saturday trying to get 256 rupees, find the frog suit that doesn't exist. I was still mad about this.
So, what that kind of reminds me of? Do you remember when Ocarina of Time came out? All those rumors about the Triforce? That you could get to the Sacred Realm, and you could find the Triforce, and you could do the thing where you go to the Lake Hylian fishing pond or Lake Helia fishing pond or whatever it was called, and you could catch the fisherman's hat with your fishing pole, and then you had to catch the roach. I think it was a loach or the roach, one of those big fish, and then he would get mad, and then he would leave, and then you could place a bomb at that little crack at that river, and inside would be the realm and the Triforce. Like, I remember these things because I believed them, because I didn't know any better, right, at the time, and I spent so many hours trying to find the goddamn Triforce in Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time.
Yeah. I miss those times sometimes, when you could bullshit and you could not immediately fact check something.
Right. It gives games kind of the sense of mystery. Like, you don't know what you can really achieve. Nowadays, you just hop online and you're like, okay, well, I'm not even going to try. But there's something about trying and having that sense of like,
Yeah, no, I remember trying to unlock the blood code in Mortal Kombat 1 on the Super Nintendo. Unfucking believable. Like, there was I'm fixing my camera there. There was a Dutch magazine that copy-pasted a April Fool's joke from a British magazine, but they didn't understand that it was an April Fool's joke. So they posted this in like May or whatever, thinking it was legit. And
oh no,
they said you had to like tape a coin on your cassette or on your cartridge, because that would like activate like a chip that otherwise wouldn't be. It was fucking ridiculous, but I believed it because I'm like 9, right?
Right, yeah.
And I was mad. Of course it wasn't true, and my moment of victory was like 10 years later. I was working in retail, and we got invited to the party of that magazine. And I went immediately to the editor. I was like, look,
I have to tell you something.
So that was good.
That's so funny, man. I also got burned by an April Fool's joke.
Times.
Yeah,
Children listening who might not know.
Pre-internet, man. Yeah. I know you don't understand those days, but I also got burned by an April Fool's joke one time. Wind Waker had been out for, I don't know when Wind Waker originally came out, but it came out, and the April Fool's joke of, oh God, I don't know what magazine it was, Game Informer or EGM or something like that. There was an article in there that said that Wind Waker's graphics were being overhauled to look more like a realistic, Zelda. And I was like, oh my God, because I hated Wind Waker's graphics when it first came out. I was a little kid. So I called my local GameStop at the time, or EB Games, and I'm like, oh my God, can I please pre-order this? Are you taking pre-orders for this? And they're like, ma'am, like I was a lady, we're going to put you on hold. And I was like, okay. And they come back like 5 minutes later. They're like, that's an April Fool's joke. And I said, oh no. Because I bet what they did is they probably had to go to their coworkers and say, have you guys heard about Wind Waker being remastered at all? And they're like, no. They looked into it, found out it was an April Fool's joke, and broke my heart.
Yeah. But you are getting a remake of a Zelda game soon. What is it, this month?
Yeah.
How excited are you about that?
Link's Awakening, right? Yeah, when's that coming out?
I thought it was remember.
Just this year. I don't. If it's next month, I'm gonna shit my pants.
No, it's
but
not
I'm pretty
next
sure.
month. I think it's this year somewhere.
It's just this year. Yeah, I was like, last I checked, which was today. I was like, it's this year. Yeah, I mean that's really cool. No, Link's Awakening is a Zelda game I admittedly haven't spent a lot of time with. I've had it since it first launched in 1993, but I was only 5, and Mario was about all I could handle at that point. But I did this a lot with games when I was younger. I didn't actually play them as intended. What I would do is I would just LARP around in them and pretend, like, make up my own stories. Yeah. So in Link's Awakening, that was one of them. You know, I'd like walk out of my house. I would see the chain chomp over there. Be like, oh, that's my pet. Yeah. I would go around and like talk to people, go down to the beach and like pretend I was having a picnic. Like that's what I did in a lot of games. Yeah. I did that a lot in Ocarina of Time too. So yeah, I'm excited to actually I've tried picking up and playing it a few times in the past few years, but something happens and I just don't. So this is, and I love the art style they're going with this. I think it looks really cute. Yeah. I'm really excited. I just want my Ocarina of Time.
Yeah, maybe one day.
Remake.
Pre-order.
You know, you see those like Unreal mock-ups that people make in the Unreal Engine, and they're like, here's Temple of Time in HD.
I seen you post about that before. Yeah, that look amazing.
Yeah, I cry every time.
Yeah, it's funny because you have Zelda, super wholesome, like adventure, and then you have shooting zombies in the freaking face. So before I want to talk about Resident Evil, especially Resident Evil 2 remake, because you had your E3 moment there, a question from one of my patrons, very simple: Claire or Leon?
Claire or Leon? Leon.
Yeah? Why?
Yeah. I love Claire. I think Claire, especially in the remake, I think they did a wonderful, fantastic job with her. I think Leon, to me, is just rooted in more Resident Evil because he is. Yeah. You know, you have Claire in Resident Evil 2. You see her in Resident Evil Code Veronica, which is one of my absolute favorite Resident Evil games. But Leon, you have RE2. You have 4. He's in 6. You know, and now he's in the remake. And so I think just having more of him in the story has kind of automatically made me kind of his favorite, like my favorite, because I associate more lore with him. But Claire's wonderful. I mean, you heard that pause I had to give it to think about.
That's true. No, so Hunter Pearson, thank you for that question. You kind of put a conundrum on her right there.
Yeah, thanks.
But so how did you get into that? Because it is so, like, how I know you, you're like so kind, so nice, always cheerful, and then like Resident Evil. Like, where does that rage come from for you?
Oh my God! So this is how I got introduced to Resident Evil. I was in 3rd or 4th grade, and one of my gaming buddies back then was my friend named Tucker, and he and I would play a lot of games together. You know, we'd play Zelda, we would play. Oh God, what was the other one? Zombies Ate My Neighbors. We played a lot of stuff together. And he came over, and my dad was watching us, and he said, hey, there's this really cool new game out. We should go to Hollywood Video, which is like the Blockbuster in our era, and go rent it. And I said, okay, cool. So I asked my dad if he could take us to Hollywood Video, and we can get this really cool game called Resident Evil. All I know is we get the game. Obviously, my dad didn't look at the little mature rating on there, but that's fine. We get the game. We come back. My dad goes back in the other room to watch his Western or whatever it was he was watching at that time. And we pop in the game. And I remember the opening scene of Resident Evil 2 where, you know, you have Leon and Claire in the cop car and you have the semi-truck driver coming down at you. You see he gets bit. Yeah. And when the semi-truck driver, for a split second, it looks like he's turning into a zombie. Like, so it's like that something about the idea that he's turning into a zombie and now he's lost all control of his vehicle scared the living shit out of me. And that whole game, the moaning of the zombies, the shuffling, the camera angles, like everything obviously about the game was designed to instill fear.
Yeah.
And for a game that came out in 1998, it did a really fucking fantastic
Yeah.
job. And I remember after Tucker played, I couldn't play it.
Yeah.
And after he left to go home, I couldn't touch it. I absolutely could not touch it. And from that, what happened was quite literally 3 to 4 years of like really bad sleeping, and I had really bad nightmares. Like it's hilarious because I remember I would close my eyes and I would envision that every time I closed my eyes that a truck full of zombies would crash and the zombies would shuffle closer to my window every time I closed my eyes. Yeah. So what I would do is I would literally put a blanket over my eyes and keep them open so the zombies wouldn't get closer. Like, I'm telling you, Matt, it screwed me up. Screwed me up so bad. And so it wasn't until, but the thing is, I was so fascinated by it for some reason, something about it. I think because it had scared me in a way a game had never done before. I think the only other game that kind of scared me before that was freaking Tomb Raider, one of those little PlayStation demo discs when you get like the white tigers trying to chase you. That was scary. That doesn't count though, right? No. That's not on Resident Evil's league. So anyway, so finally, many years passed. I learned how to sleep again, and I was like, I'm going to give these games a shot because then, we had the Game Sharks and we had the action replays. And so I got infinite health and infinite rocket launcher ammo. And I said, I'm going to start this over again. So I think the first one I started out with was the Resident Evil remake. And then they also re-released those, like Resident Evil 2 on GameCube, I think it was, or I don't think it was remade. I think they just re-released it. Or maybe I'm thinking of something completely different. Either way, I had all the games at my disposal. And so then I started playing those again. Then I hopped into Code Veronica and just like reignited this like love of, well, I guess I can't say reignited because I never loved it before. Yeah. But I was just like, oh my God, it's so good. So Resident Evil quite literally scarred me and made like my life hell for a few years. But I still loved it so much. Yeah. And I think for Resident Evil, what it is I love being scared. I love scary things. I love horror films. I love all things like that. I love going to Halloween Horror Nights, the haunted houses, all that shit. And what Resident Evil also does, though, is it has fascinating lore. The history of Umbrella Corporation and its founders and the characters that you come across. It's all so well written and so fascinating that I love diving into that. And I love reading the documents that you find on desks. And so you get me started talking about this and I can't stop.
No, I love it. I like go off like on Resident Evil. So it's Resident Evil 2 that you started on.
Yep, that was my first game when I was in grade school, elementary school. Then I stopped, and then from there, I don't remember if I hopped into Resident Evil 2 again or Resident Evil 1 on GameCube, or maybe my first game back was Code Veronica. Like, I don't remember, but I just remember once I played one of them, I just went through and I had to play all of them because I had them all. Yeah.
It's funny because I have this super weird memory of Resident Evil, the first one, because I was in Holland, and we didn't get every game at the same time, but you could get import games. So what we had to do, I'm not sure, Sony might come after me when I tell the story, is you had to put a little spring in your PlayStation in the lid, and then you play a European disc until the logo spun, and then you would take it out and switch it for one of your import games. But for Resident Evil, because it was like a PAL versus NTSC, whatever European settings, it would only play in black and white on our TV, even though it was
really?
So I played the entirety of Resident Evil 1 in black and white, and I swear up till to this day that is the best experience in that game.
That's fascinating, dude. Holy shit.
Yeah, it was like, I love Resident Evil 1. But I dropped off. I remember playing 2. What is 3? How does 3 start? Is that with all the people in the police station with like random characters and you have to build weapons, or is that 2 as well?
Resident Evil 3 is Nemesis.
Yeah.
And that's the one with Jill and Carlos. So Resident Evil 3 kind of takes place... It's in the middle of Resident Evil 2. I think I have that right. Or Resident Evil 2 is in the middle of Resident Evil 3. I think that's how it works.
Yeah, something like that.
Because you have Jill, and then she gets attacked by Nemesis, and she gets infected. And then while she's infected, I think is when Claire and Leon are doing their business in the Raccoon City police station. And then after they leave is when Jill gets up, and then she ultimately takes off and leaves.
Okay, yeah, I don't remember. But I dropped off the entire franchise. After that, I didn't play the 4, which is the big one apparently. I didn't play 6, but I didn't play 7.
Yeah, 4 a lot of people love 4, and 4 is not a bad game, but, it wasn't that traditional experience.
No.
I think 4 was important for the franchise, to try to, elevate it, because you can't get away with those tank controls anymore, right? You can't. You can't do it. And the fixed camera angles, while I appreciate them and their artistic value, because you can really spook people with them, I just don't know how that would fly in today's world. Although there was a mod for Resident Evil 2 fixed camera angles, and it looked pretty cool.
Yeah. I do need to play the remake of Resident Evil 2, but I kind of put all my games on hold because, I didn't have a job for a while. But now I can go back and buy video games again. So that's probably going to be one of my
Have you finished RE2, the remake?
No, I didn't even start yet. I didn't even buy it yet.
Okay.
Yeah,
actually, they just announced that for $5 you can get the I don't know what it unlocks. Infinite ammo.
Yeah, I might just do that.
It depends. If you like the survival elements, right? Like managing your inventory and having to ratio. Yeah, that's exactly. I think it's so cool that they're offering this option, because that's the way I first started playing Resident Evil after my initial cluster of being scared forever. Is infinite ammo gave me that confidence to be like, I can do this.
Yeah.
Right?
They're good games, though. I think it's such a fun part of your personality where you're like, I'm Brittney Brombacher, and I'm killing zombies, headshots, and cut them in half. I just love the combo, especially when I see your reaction when they announced Resident Evil 2 remake. I wish I was there, although the whole presentation was kind of terrible, I think.
That was odd. I mean, I'm all for trying something new, but I think the worst part of that presentation was the Last of Us Part 2 because they had us all in this little shack, and this little it was supposed to be the church, right? And the worst part is the floor was leveled, so it wasn't angled. So if you were in the back of the room, you couldn't see anything, and we weren't that far from the front of the press conference of that part, but we couldn't see anything. But man, that Resident Evil 2 reveal, that was a moment.
Yeah, well, they're probably going to use that at some point in marketing when another sequel comes out. Yes. But, that's, I think I got a pretty good, I already knew you a little bit, but a good image of Brittney Brombacher, Blonde Nerd. Like I said, and I already poured my heart out to how wonderful I think you are. But what is next for you? I know we talked 5-year plan. Is there anything coming up? Is there anything you're working on now? Because GameStop TV is a big deal, but I know you got one in the chamber for us.
Honestly, right now, because we just did GDC, we just did PAX East, and last week Andrea was getting some much needed R&R, so I was running the show. I'm looking forward to this Friday when I leave for Antigua with my husband for a week. We're just getting the hell out of Dodge. I'm going to try to disconnect as much as I possibly can, just to kind of get that breather and that, because burnout is real, and it's it can be really dangerous, because if you don't take care of yourself, you're going to find yourself not living up to your potential, right? Yeah. So I'm just really looking forward to this trip I have planned up. But after that, my husband and I have a social media app we're kind of working on that we're making some changes to. There's some cluster with the development team, and we're trying to work on that, and hopefully we'll get that launched soon. He has a really cool adventure, and when your partner or spouse has something really cool going on in the works, it kind of becomes your project too, right? Yeah. Yeah. So other than that, though, I think just what's good stuff. We have our monthly meetups. We have our GameStop stuff we're working on. I think now it's just kind of how do we optimize the groundwork that we have, and how do we make it better and bigger and add more value to it. Yeah. Well, that's good. Yeah. Those are some pretty good short-time goals. So I always end, Brittney, I try to end because I'm terrible at closing. Me too. I'm so bad at it. I get it, man. It is hard. I always try to end on podcast and chill, where you get to promote, plug, or anything you want to. Is there a video out there that you want to wish people would see or not see, or anything you want to shill for? I would just say the What's Good Games podcast. We are an upbeat show for the nerd inclined. I think that's our official tagline. But real talk, what we do is we talk about every week's news. We talk about the games we've been playing. We cover events, and we try, we're not afraid to tear something apart if it needs to be. But we are, I would say, more of the optimistic, more of the upbeat channel, where we try not to shit talk. We try not to rant a lot. We try to talk about things that make us happy. Obviously, a big news, Steimer and I just broke down that whole Anthem story by Jason Schreier last week, and that was, and GameStop's $673 million loss. Like, we talk about that stuff, obviously, and that's bummer stuff to talk about, man. Like, that's not fun to talk about, but you do what you got to do. But other than, that we try to just kind of put out positive energy, and we try to create an inclusive community where everyone and anyone is welcome. Unless you're an asshole, then you can GTFO. But we just try to create a safe, positive space for people who love video games and are looking for like-minded folks to bond over and form a community and a friendship with. And I think we do a pretty darn good job at that. So if that sounds like something, you might be interested in what'sgoodgames.com. Yeah. Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah,
it makes me happy to hear
and not
that.
just the show. I love the show, but what I've seen from your community, wonderful people. Like, I am still talking to some of the people that I met at your meetup at PAX East 2018.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Yeah. Fellow small-time podcasters, and we created this super team now. We go. It's fantastic. Like, what you guys have built for each other is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, we run a really tight ship. I do a lot of I do most of our social media content, and I have zero tolerance for assholery. If I feel like there's been a misunderstanding, I will step in and say, hey, I think this is what so-and-so meant. Maybe this is because, the internet can be tone deaf. I get it. But if there's just some blatant ass hattery, I will ban people very, very quickly. So, right, we moderate all of our content.
Yeah.
We don't just post stuff and walk away. So I feel like that's something that's attractive to folks who are trying to find a community where they're not going to have to worry about being bullied or picked on or something like that.
And you're fantastic at it. Let me just put that out there. The whole social media thing, great. But also the community management is just fantastic because it's so important. I think it's always important to, it sounds weird, but to call out your own community every now and then. Because, they show up every now and then. And if you don't say a word, just because you want to have that one extra click, then you might send 5 people away because they're like, oh, I guess this is cool here. It's not for me. So I love what you're doing. You're fantastic.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm also going to show hard because I know, let's be honest, that everybody who is watching the show today is here for Brittney Brombacher.
Oh, stop it. It's not true.
It is mostly true. I'm going to look at the numbers. It's going to be mostly true. But if you're here for Britt and you kind of like the show, you like the format, the one-on-one, I do this every week. And if I have 50 other episodes with the same idea, I interview people from interesting people from the industry. I had Lucy James before, I've had Andrea, I had Kirk the Vike before. He's a YouTube sensation, up and coming. Not everybody has discarded him yet. Lovely guy. I try to find the cool stories because there's so many cool stories, so many cool people in the industry that I would love to have an hour with them and just chat away like we did today. So check me out at the Hashtagonist on Twitter or on my YouTube channel, and you can find all the links here because you already found it. You made your way here. But Britt, thank you so much for making this work, coming on the show.
You.
It's been an absolute delight talking to you. I am fortunate that I get to hang out with you every now and then, but getting an hour.
It's been too long, though, sir. It's been too long. We need to have some whiskey at that bar, wherever that was. Is it LA where you have that great whiskey bar?
It's the 7th something, whatever.
Yeah.
I if I make it to E3, I'm gonna be very happy. But I will be looking for you to hang out and have a couple of drinks together.
Well, make it happen. And I just wanna thank you too for having this really cool show. It's fun, and it's fun to pop in. And I know you had Stephanie on here recently, and she's wonderful and amazing. And so it's fun to hop in and just shoot the shit. With someone, and it's good. So you do good work here too.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Well, you enjoy your vacation next week because this is going to go up while you're on vacation, but you deserve it. So we'll hopefully get to talk soon. And if you're still listening to me trying to close the show, thank you so much for tuning in. And as I said, if you like the show, come back next week or in the previous 50 weeks because there's a lot to catch up on. And I am the Hashtagonist, and this is the Hashcast. And thank you so much for joining in.